Today we are going to be talking about inspiration versus transformation. But you need to make sure you're doing something every day to implement your plan. Most of the time, I get silence and crickets. Hi everyone, I'm Crystal McDaniel and this is The Naked Singer. Today we are going to be talking about inspiration versus transformation. And what's the difference between inspiration and transformation, because they are not the same thing. So let's just jump right into that topic and get going, because you're going to have a lot of questions about this when we are done, and you're going to really want to discuss and get deep into how we can make the leap from inspiration to transformation. So make sure that you're ready with your questions in the comments after we're done with this podcast, because it is such a great subject and it's so important to discuss, especially young singers, so that you know the path that you need to walk. My young singers really struggle with practicing and how to practice and how to make sure that they are doing something on a daily basis. All of them have so many busy things that they've got to do. Their lives are full of school and after school activities. So we want to make sure that you guys are equipped with what you need to do, because learning to prioritize is a big deal to you young singers, because you've got to make sure you're getting all the things that you need to get done if you want a career as a singer. That's just the way it goes. When you are in school, your career as a musician at a university starts at 8 a.m. and it ends at 11 o'clock at night. It is nonstop. And you've got to be prepared with how to get all your other classes done and be able to do all the rehearsing and all the performing that you're required to do as a music major or a musical theater major, or even if you want to do pop or production. That is also the way that goes. It takes a lot of skill and long hours. So you've got to make sure that you know the difference and what keeps you inspired so that you can make the transformation that you need. Okay, so let's get started. Inspiration. When you're dealing with inspiration are things that inspire you to spark energy within yourself to transform yourself into the person that you know you are deep inside. So inspiration sparks the energy to make the transformation. So if you go to shows or you go to concerts or you watch things on Netflix or on television or on TikTok, those are all great social forums, YouTube, to see what inspires you and to see what type of music you really love and who are the people that are doing what you want to do. And if you've got that unction deep down in your gut, this is what I want to do, and you are a talented individual in that area of singing, then you want to make sure that you can make the leap and transform yourself into what you want to be. Because watching a concert or buying a ticket, it's great to see it and let it inspire you to see how great these people are. But the people that are up there doing it have really earned their way there. They have done the work at home. They've done the dance. They do the acting classes. They continue to grow their craft and they're honing it all the time. And they have to keep the mindset to keep them going over and over and over again to be able to do that. So the inspiration probably hit them years ago when they saw their first show or they saw their first concert and they went, wow, this is what I want to do with my life. So the inspiration gives you the energy and helps to motivate you to make the transformation that you need. But transformation, in order to actually become that, It takes more than just your talent. It takes the daily activity that you do in order to become the person that you want to become. And that's different from being inspired. Now, we may have to over and over and over again continue to tap into the inspiration, continue to watch things and to continue to learn and grow and keep that inspiration going. But in the end, it's the daily things that we do that transform us. And that's something that you really need to write down and journal about. So there's a couple of questions that I want you to really dig down deep and ask yourself. I was talking to a student earlier this week, and she had never really thought about these things before. And I think we all have to ask ourselves certain questions and really start digging to find out what inspires us and what motivates us and what we're going to do about it. So one of those questions is, if you knew that nothing and no obstacle would get in your way in order to reach your ultimate goal. In other words, if you want to be a Tony Award winner and you knew for a fact that nothing, no matter what you did, everything was going to be good and you would get that Tony, it would just sort of take you like a straight shot straight to the Tony. If you knew that would happen and there would be no obstacles, what would you do? That's a question that you need to ask yourself. If you knew that only good things would happen to you and only good would happen every single day, and you would be filled with joy every single day by doing the work that you need to do in order to reach that goal, get that Grammy or get that Emmy or get that Oscar or get that Tony, whatever it is that you want to receive or whatever level of success that you want. If you knew that only good things would happen on your way to doing that, what would you do? These are questions, and you can keep going and going and going with those particular questions or those style of questions, and you need to journal it and you need to write it out. And if you won it, if you actually won that Grammy and you reached that goal and you were there, can you imagine what that would feel like? Can you see what type of person that would make you? Can you imagine actually being there on that level? And if you knew that you were on that level and you started thinking about yourself and imagining what's it going to be like when I'm on that level, write it down. Write it down and write what you did and what you would do in order to get to that level if you knew that it was guaranteed 100% that you were going to get there. What would you do? Write it down. Give yourself the steps. Think about those things so that you know what you really want deep down inside, and then start doing the things that you wrote down about it, because that's part of your own inspiration. That's you inspiring yourself to get there. Also, that's a transformational exercise so that you can really see what it is you actually want. Because I can promise you that one role on Broadway, if you wanted to be Elphaba in Wicked, or if you want to be Satine in Moulin Rouge, or you want to be Evan Hansen in Dear Evan Hansen, or whatever role that pops in your mind that is your dream role to be, or if you want to be able to fill up arenas and coliseums with people because you want to be that country singer or you want to be that pop star, no matter what that is, that one thing is not going to be enough. I can promise you that. that one thing is not going to be enough, because then past that, there's going to be another thing that you're going to need, and another thing that you need, and another thing that you're going to need. So you got to really think about, what is the life you want going to be like once you reach those things? Because getting there, that's where life is really going to begin. So we want to make sure that you already right now start thinking and living as though you're there. Now, I am not talking about spending lots of money and doing all of that stuff. You've got to start transforming your mind so that you can keep yourself inspired and motivated to go towards those particular goals. And that is very important for you to deal with. If you're not writing these things down, if you're not putting them where you can actually see this and thinking your way through it, then it's just an idea out there, and it will pass by like a leaf on top of water. It'll just float right on by to you, and then you'll wonder, why in the world am I just spinning my wheels in the mud and not really getting anywhere? And you're going to be stuck in your own fear, and that is not where you want to be. So let's talk about transformation for just a second. The first thing that happens when you want to transform, the first thing that happens is that thought comes to you. So when you're watching something that really inspires you, that's the inspiration that started it. So that first concert or that first compliment, boy, you really have a good voice. Those things immediately start the inspirational thought. And you think, wow, I have this thing and I really want to do that, and I really enjoy that. So that's something you have to remind you of, but that's the spark that starts it all. That's the inspiration that starts it all. The second thing that you have to do in the transformation is start organizing that thought. You got to start organizing that. What do I need to do in order to get to that? So the brainstorming ideas and getting those steps organized. So if you've never taken voice lessons before, then maybe take voice lessons needs to be on the list. Maybe you need to Google schools that train in what you want to be. Those things are really important for you to start organizing and just brainstorming all the things, and then you can put them in the order that you need to be in order for you to reach that and start really working on that transformation. And I want to say to you that so many people, the ego gets in the way, because voice lessons, if you are a singer, voice lessons are necessary for all of you, because you've got to learn to train like an athlete so that the voice can maintain its health, and you can be body aware enough. If you are really going great guns at this and you are touring, doing show after show after show after show, or if you are on Broadway and you're doing 8 shows a week, you've got to learn about your vocal health and how to maintain that so that you can lower your injury rate. And that is what a voice lesson with somebody that really knows what they're doing helps you to be able to do. There are too many times I see students and somebody's approached them, or you see singers that people approach and go, you actually could really do this. You're amazing. You should take voice lessons and start working for that. And they get insulted because they think somebody's saying that there's something wrong with their voice, when it's actually a compliment. Going and getting a coach when you want to train for the Olympics, you would do that. So it's the same way and the same thought process when you're a singer and you want to be on the highest level that you possibly can be. Now, I realize there's a lot of singers that have never trained that have made it, and that's great. But I bet if you talk to some of them, they're going to say to you, I wish I had taken lessons. I've heard many, many, many people say that. and recommend that. So you want to make sure that you have that as a priority on your list so that you can learn how your body is an instrument, how to set it up, and how to make sure you are maintaining the best vocal health that you possibly can. So that's something you're going to need on that list. Then number 3, you're going to plan and have your ideas. The transformation in you happens when you daily put the plans and ideas into the reality of your life. As a singer or any athlete, you have to train all the time. You have to practice all the time. Like in the NFL or in the NBA or in the, baseball leagues, when they are in the off season, they are at the gym. They are working out. They're doing the things that it takes for them to train so that they're ready when the spring training starts, or whenever the training starts for them, they're ready. If you're an Olympian, you are working every day towards that Olympic event. You're going to the competitions that are there, like the ice skating competitions and the tennis competitions. But it is an everyday training that you are doing in order to be able to get there. And I can't emphasize that enough. To implement and work on your ideas and your plans every single day is important, even if you're only giving it 15 minutes. I like to look at that as every day, something that is income producing from that career needs to be done. So if you want to be paid and get larger and larger and larger paychecks for what you do, then every single day you've got to do something towards that is an income producing activity. For a singer, that's going to be to practice. That's going to be to research where you can send demos. That's going to be, looking at what headshots you need, how you need to deal with social media, all of those things. And we can provide that through our studio for our students, is how to work your social media as a singer so that you know how you best need to present yourself when you're doing that. So those are all things that you need to know that you need to be ready to do. And this is how the transformation into the professional high-level career that you want to get you to that goal that's way up here has to be done. So I want to remind you of something. Keep it simple. Just, really keep it simple. Don't look at it as being some big Mount Everest of work that you've got to do. Keep it simple. Just like I said a minute ago, even 15 minutes of practice towards, for that day, if that's all you can get to when you've in high school or you're in college, and mainly high school, because college, if you were studying this, then in college, you're actually required to put some of that time into it and get graded for that. But when you're in high school and all of these things are being crammed, or middle school, and you're wondering, how can I get to this practice? How can I get my own practice in? How can I get all of my homework done? Well, I'm going to tell you, I have a tennis coach because I love to play tennis. And one of the things he told me was, because he's been on the Junior Davis Cup circuit and all of that, and he's a great tennis player. And one of the things that he said to me personally was that he just had to get up early and do it, or he just had to stay up late and get it done. That was just what he had to do. You've got to figure out how you're going to get that done, and sacrifice when you really want a high level of something is going to have to be made. And no one wants to sacrifice anything, but that's just not realistic. You've got to. But at the same time, you need to give yourself some grace, and you don't need to beat yourself up all the time just because you may have only gotten to 15 minutes. Because if it was 15 minutes towards that income producing activity, then you have done something. So make sure that you keep it simple. You do something on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be the same thing, and it doesn't have to be all of it in one day. It can be small sections, but you need to make sure you're doing something every day to implement your plan. That is exactly what you need to be doing. Energy goes where your attention flows. I love that statement. Energy goes where your attention flows. So you need to pay attention to what you're paying attention to, because a lot of that is sucking your time up. You can take life moments to do some of the simple things that I teach here in the studio. You can, if you're making your bed, if you are doing your laundry, if you're folding the laundry, if you're working on your homework, sometimes some of the work that we do can be done while you're doing another task. You just have to make sure you're doing that. If you're standing in a grocery store line, if you are in the car, and I'm not talking about singing in the car, because I'd rather you have great alignment, but sometimes we can't avoid it. So just, make sure you're aligning yourself in a car seat as well as you can. And you are putting work into maybe opening your throat or releasing the tongue root or whatever it is. You can take that time when you're in the car to do it. You can learn your melodies and memorization. All of those things you can do at different times. So, and if you cannot sing, if your throat is sore and you can't sing, you can memorize. You can still be memorizing. You can be writing out the lines and working on your memorization. And so all of those things can be done no matter what you are going through. Those things can be done. If you are putting your attention on Netflix or TikTok and you just are putting minutes and minutes and hours, or you're doing it with gaming or whatever that you're doing, I have no problem with any of those platforms. It's just that if you want the goal as being a singer, then obviously gaming isn't singing. So you got to think about how much time you're actually putting into that so that you can make sure that you are shortening the time on that and you're lengthening the time on getting to the goal that you actually want. Because if you're watching somebody else on Netflix or you're watching somebody else on TikTok, then they're living the life that you want to live. And that's not how to live the life. That is just watching somebody else live the life that you want. So you've got to make sure that if that's for inspiration, then after a second, you need to turn your phone off and you go, okay, now I feel really inspired because I really want to do that. Let me go do one of the things on my list that I have the plan to do. This is how you transform. I have another student here in the studio that started out just stumbling and having trouble practicing. And now this young woman practices all the time because she started implementing her plan and implementing what she wants. And, in our studio, my assistant is also a practice coach. And you know what? I don't know of many places, or if any places right off the top of my head, that actually have a practice coach for their singers. And you can contact her if you're a student of mine, and you can actually get her to help you learn to practice. We put that into place because I have students over and over again to tell me that they wish that the school systems would teach them how to study. All the school systems do is tell them that you need to study this, but nobody teaches them how to study and how to work with their own personality style and their own way of learning on how to practice. And so we actually provide that. So your students need to be practicing, and if you don't have a practice coach, then we do. And you can contact us and know it. And if you're a parent in my studio that is listening to this, then you need to make sure you're encouraging your child to make that appointment with Mara Johnson, because she is an excellent practice coach. She can help them with the details. She has overcome the issue herself, and she actually has a wonderful practice routine. And so I asked her to start teaching that to the students so they could make an appointment with her. She will sit down with them and start talking to them about what they think about practice and how they can get their practice in order. And it also gives them a way to have accountability. We also have a student-led Discord, and Mara is on there. You can put videos on there and ask somebody for feedback. I don't go on there because I promised the students that I would stay away from our studio Discord channel, because I want to make sure that they are helping one another. But more times than not, there's just crickets on there. And, you guys need to get in there, start asking questions. And what type of questions do you need to ask? You can ask any student, any question, anytime. Like, when do you find time to practice? When you practice, do you find it hard to do this or this? What do you find successful? You guys have a whole support system. Will you guys look at my video and see what you think? Because as you're learning and growing, it helps to have feedback from your peers. And we have set all of these things up for your success. So if you aren't using it, then you aren't implementing your plan, because we have literally put tools out there that make it easier on you to be successful. So you've got to start using the tools that are there. I think when you don't, it just makes your progress further behind. And then you don't have the support, and then you feel alone and you don't have the encouragement. So group up and become encouragers for one another. That's something else that you can do. Daily affirmations help with transformation. A long time ago, I thought, really, I'm supposed to speak these things out loud? That sounds crazy. But the more I've done it, the more my mind has transformed and the more my thinking has transformed. So a lot of the negative thinking that I had, I don't have anymore. Now, I'm not going to say I don't have any negative thinking, because I do. And I have to overcome a lot of things that went on with me earlier in my life. So I'm just going to tell you that I went through a lot of trauma, and I'm overcoming, and we're coring out. My therapist and I are working very hard to core out brainwashing and gaslighting that was done to me from basically birth and until around age, whatever I am, about 3 years ago. So I don't normally give out my age, so I'm not going to do it now, so don't expect me to. But let me just say, decades and decades and decades of brainwashing and gaslighting. And I am now getting past that, and I'm releasing all of that out of my body. So yes, I struggle with negative thoughts and negative belief systems that do not benefit me at all as a singer and as a business owner. And I want to succeed more. So some of these things that I'm saying to you guys, I'm actually doing myself right now. So I know that it works, and I know that it's important for you to do these things. Singing and practicing can be a very lonely craft. So you want to make sure that you are affirming yourself in this situation that we have, and in this life, being gifted with the gift from God to be able to sing and put our voice out in the world. So affirming ourselves in being able to do that when it's such a vulnerable thing to do is really important that we do for ourselves. So I'm going to give you some examples of how you can deal with the negative thought patterns. Okay, so here we go. The negative thought is, no one ever comments on my posts. This is useless. No one cares. And I'm using ones that I use for myself, but you can change them if you want to. So that's my negative thought, because I get a lot of crickets. Believe me, I get a lot of crickets on my posts, and I get a lot of crickets on the comments here for the podcast. So, and I don't get a lot of shares, and I don't get a lot of tag a friends that this will be helpful. But I'm trudging on anyway, because I know deep down in my gut, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm continuing to move it on and on and on. So those are the negative thoughts, especially it's like no one cares because all I hear is crickets. So my affirmation of truth out of this is I am putting important information for singers into the world. It doesn't matter if anyone comments. I care, and I know that in my gut that I am doing what I am supposed to do. So I say that to myself, and I affirm my work and the importance of it, because I believe what I am telling you deep down in my gut right now, what I'm telling you right now, I believe it's important for you to know. I believe it's important to help you towards your success. So here I am sitting in my podcast studio, and I am putting this out there into the world, even though right now I am talking to myself. So there's a lot of times I feel like that's what I'm doing. I'm putting this stuff out here and I'm just talking to myself, but I truly believe that God wants me to. And he is saying, do it, Crystal, do it. And so therefore I'm continuing to walk on, even though most of the time I get silence and crickets. And I'm reading a book right now, and I was so thankful when she said that when she first started her career, that she got a lot of crickets too, and a lot of silence in the beginning. And I'm like, thank heavens I'm hearing that. That is so encouraging to me, because that's exactly how I feel most of the time. But I know it's not going to last that way, because I know I'm putting out good content, and I know that these things are important for you guys as young singers and parents of young singers to know. These things are important. Okay, the next negative thought that I deal with is nothing has worked out before. Why is this any different? Well, my positive thought is things work out for me all the time. And I attract great opportunities. I can't do something great if I don't know that I attract great opportunities. I attract the audition invitations. I attract the performance opportunities, and I have to continually say that to myself over and over and over and over again, that I do, that I'm like a magnet for it, and that everything I do and everything I touch is successful. In the Bible, God says that everywhere my foot trods is mine. Everywhere my foot trods is mine. And I have conquered it. So believe me, everywhere I walk, that is mine. And I claim it as my land, because I know that this is what I'm meant to do. I am meant to help singers. I am meant to encourage singers. I am meant to teach great things to singers. This is what I'm meant to do. And by the way, I'm a great performer too. So, this is my calling, this is what I do. This is who I am. And if you feel that way and you can't imagine yourself doing anything else, then this is what you're meant to do. And if the first thing in the morning you think, this is what I want to do, then this is what you're meant to do. So you've got to keep telling yourself these great affirmations. And you can go on to sites and you can go on to Google and Google affirmations for yourself, career affirmations, financial affirmations, encouraging affirmations, and you can find them and write out the ones that are helpful to you, and you can just say them. Spend 5 minutes, set a timer in the morning, spend 5 minutes looking at yourself in the mirror and telling yourself these things, releasing the negative thoughts and bringing into yourself the positive things. And know who you are, and grasp who you are and the power that you have as a person. Stand for yourself and do the things that you want to do, and don't doubt it. Don't put any thought into doubts about it, because it's just a waste of energy. And remember I said earlier that where you put your attention, that's where your energy goes. So don't do that. Don't let it be negative. Okay. To truly transform ourselves into who we authentically are, we have to cross our transformed beliefs about ourselves and our daily work towards our goals. That's what has to be done. We have to take that inspiration. We have to make sure that what we believe about ourselves, we have to transform those beliefs and cross it with the daily work that it takes us to transform into who we want to be and to do what we want to do. Because imagine yourself there and how much joy that you have when you get to that. And then every single step you take and you plant your foot on it, that land is yours. And you keep walking and claiming it and walking and claiming it and walking and claiming it until you get there. That's what you do. And you don't give up. No matter what you do, if you believe it in your gut, in your core that that's who you are, then that's what you do, and you don't deviate. You just keep doing it. I believe in you. All right, that's all I have today for you. I hope that this was really helpful. I thought that this was one of my very favorite subject matters. I just really enjoyed making the notes on this. I really enjoyed thinking on it and pondering it. So I hope that this is massively helpful to you. Please make sure that you comment, support the podcast by commenting, following, subscribing, tagging a friend, sharing it, all the things, because I really want to hear from you. Remember that the Naked Singer podcast drops every single Monday. We have our workshop coming up. If you're interested in knowing about that with Tony Award winning baritone Eugene Brancoviano, make sure you put that in a comment. You can also DM me on Instagram at Naked Singer Blog. You can DM me on TikTok at The Naked Singer. You can DM me on Facebook at The Naked Singer Blog. So you can get more information that way about the upcoming workshop. It's going to be the first weekend of December. We always have a great time. We would love to have you there. So make sure that you plan to be there. We'd love to hear about everything that you have going on. Make sure that you listen to this podcast, and you can find it on all your favorite podcast networks. As always, I'm Crystal McDaniel, and this is The Naked Singer.